Hello everyone, Don, back with the next progress report on the Corsair. As you can see, I got enough done today. I figured I'm going to give you a quick view of how this thing is going to finally look. I was able to get the part out of my jig. Let's see, I got the jig setting over here. Last night I was able to come out and trim the top of it. Luckily I did it when I did because it was getting a little really stiff. It was quite a chore to cut through it, but a fresh razor blade did. And then at the same time I run a razor down through here to break it loose last night. So then this morning I came out and run a blade back through there again, and it was pretty much still cut. A couple places it cleaned up, and pulled out the wedges on the back side, and it popped right out. So it didn't take me 5 minutes to get it out of that pattern. So then after that I had did a little bit of a cleanup on it, and then tried to well, after it popped out of the thing, I was able to take my patterns here, and I had tape on the ends, so I just took one of them, sliced it, was able to grab the corner of it and just peeled it right off. It came off effortlessly. The only places that were hard to get off was the wedges. They were stuck with double-sided tape, and every one of them I managed to make it peel the wedge and leave the wedge in the bowl in the pattern. But I just pulled one at a time. I've been this way, I guess. Pulled them off one at a time, and it left all the wedges in here because the tape just pulled. Because some of the covering slipped underneath these, but the green peel ply, not peel ply, but the mold release that I had in there, it left a green tint on the whole thing. But after I had kind of trimmed this edge off a little bit, this edge was pretty clean already. I sanded it before I popped it out of the mold to level it with the pattern. And then I went in, I pulled these out, and it was nice and it was pretty rigid sitting in the mold. It was pretty rigid. Once it's out of there, it's pretty pliable. I mean, it's not soft. It's hardened up good. But once it's glued into place here, it'll be fine. But this is like glass. This is perfectly smooth, even though it doesn't look it. So this kind of gives you an idea of what it's looking like. You know, there's a little low spot there, but most of this stuff you can't feel it. Some of it you can, but a light sand and fill, that peel ply or the mold release, I took it over to the garden hose and hit it, and it just rinsed right off with water without any scrubbing. So I've got these just double-sided tape at the reference point of where I want them, and so it's just barely below these cutouts, about 1/8 of an inch below. So I had to keep it as close to those edges as I possibly can. This is the opening on the bottom that I'm probably going to close off. But right now I just kind of got it tacked in place with some, I had some double-sided tape I stuck here. This had popped loose on me. It stayed together all day, but the more I played with it, it finally popped it loose. And this is sticking fairly proud of the canopy or the cowling itself. So, but this piece really needs to be countersunk flush with this. So I've got a line drawn all the way around this to give me the reference. You can see it hiding underneath there. So what I need to do, this is kind of set back in like 1/4 inch. Might have to trim it, but the idea is I'm going to cut this fiberglass for when I finish the making up the difference here. I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to peel the top layer of this glass off of the styrofoam, and then I'll set this down in there, and it'll still set a little proud, because this did turn out to be about 1/16 of an inch thick after it's said and done. But remember, this has got to be look like this is all one piece, and this has to cover up, as you can see, for the extension, because without this on there, you're going to have this big hole. So So that's where I'm at. I did go in and sand on the back sides of every one of these because they were kind of proud. I just took a sander on my little disc sander here, and I knocked down the back edges of every one of these because they were humped up and hitting and holding it out even further. But I'm thinking of I'll probably do the same thing here, just cut around here all the way around, maybe peel off, because it's only, like I say, it's only 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch at the most on there. So, and then try to leave these, but I can kind of like cut a groove across there, so that will physically set down in there and be closer to flush. It doesn't have to be perfectly flush, but I just want a nice clean edge, and having a little bit of this edge sticking out will give it a little more authentic look. I don't want to blend it in perfectly smooth because it shouldn't look that way. But these did come out. Here's a blem where the stuff didn't feel good. But the corners, for the most part, these things, most of them are nice and crisp. In some of these places where this had pulled away, it'd be easy to just backfill these with some slurry mix, clean them up. That'll all get done once this is all glued in place. Now that is almost in a perfect spot there. And this one's off a little bit. So it needs to be rolled over. This isn't the final position. It's just I wanted to get it on there to see how it looks. So if we kind of turn this sideways, that's what it's going to look like on the airplane. So it should look pretty good. My one thought was maybe painting these black, but then it probably wouldn't look right. Because you figure on the real one, when these are open, I think there's a piece of aluminum that keeps that closed. And this would possibly be painted the same color as the plane, but so I'm just going to paint them, you know, the light blue, dark blue, just going to paint the whole thing. I'm not going to, it'll make shadows on its own. But yeah, this is super smooth, very, very smooth. So, and that's very close to where I want this actually, so it cuts right in the middle of that. So that comes off of that cowl, this comes off of this cowl. So this is the very top of the cowling again. I got this thing all sanded out. Looks really good. There is still just a low depression there in that little yellowing. That's that pucker I mentioned. You can see a little shiny spot where the sander didn't catch it. So it needs a slight more fill there. And then I even sanded the inside down because I poured a bunch of it, and then I found a hollow spot right there. So I cut it open, and I'm going to fill that with some slurry. When I make this, I'll probably use the cotton floss because that stuff is extremely hard. It's just white ground up cotton. A little bit squeezing out there, but it's a powdery, but it's just cotton, regular old cotton, and that makes for an extremely hard edge, and that's what this is. This is way, way harder than the microblooms. So I'll backfill all that, and then these holes here will be punched straight throughout the cowling, so I can get a screwdriver in there. They'll be probably just big enough for the screws to pass through, because you're not going to get a screw down into there. You're going to have to come right through the cowling. So there'll be little holes there. Actually, take that back. That'll be attached to the aluminum. So those will be clamped permanently, and then where it screws into the airplane firewall, this one will be removable. So the hole will be clear. The flap is going to come clear back into here. It's not going to reach the tank because where I had to shift everything and I had to trim a little bit off of that. It moved everything forward, but I figured out when it's all said and done, I've got 1 inch of clearance. The cowling will be 1 inch from the prop, and that's perfect. And then it's gonna the flap is gonna stop just shy of reaching the tank, so that should be a good place for it. So it's all working out fine. But anyway, I just wanted to give you guys a little preview of how it's looking. You can see some of these there's a little spot there, a little there. This side was kind of the roughest edge, and that was just kind of sanded down. So, but most of it, I mean, it came out better than I was expecting, but not as good as I would have liked. It's just going to take some cleanup to finish this out, and then closing this up again. It don't need to be open. There's enough. I'll leave it like the rest, so the air, all the air is going to come out of the cowling through these cutouts mostly, because this is it's going to be forward a little bit, so the air will still get out of there. But I don't need this big hole in the bottom anymore, so I'll have to fill that in somehow. I might be able to, I mean, the easiest thing to do would be like put a thin piece of aluminum or something over there and glue it in, but we'll see. It's going to take me a little bit to finalize this. I'm going to first go in there and cut it, because when it's done, the center of this seam should be right on the center there. And because it's not setting, you can kind of see the edges of it. You know, there's a good, because that's a good 1/16 inch thick. You can see the shine on that. You can see the little low spots, but that's no big deal. But that'll lightly sand, because it is slurry mix, but I'll probably just do like an epoxy wipe for the final coating on the plane. You just take straight epoxy and squeegee it in there and squeegee it off, and that'll probably be enough to some of these heavier ones. Once I backfill all these little bleed spots where it didn't close up, then when it's done, this hopefully will be back all closed up. So I've got to gain that much, and by trimming this and getting her to seat back in there and then seating this in, it should close her up pretty good. If not, it'll take some fill to fill it in. This edge, I want us to keep it nice and clean and square. The backside edge, if I had to, I can wrap something around it, some fiberglass, but so that's kind of where I'm at, folks. So that's going to do her for this week's update, but if I split the difference, at the very least it'll come up to this corner. But I think once it's in the right place, it'll fit good. Because I did trim enough off of this. I took at least 1/8 to 1/4 inch off the edge of this, which would make it open up bigger, give it a bigger ID. And it did close it up some, but right now it's physically hitting this. This piece is too thick right here. So, but I think once I notch it out, get her recessed in there, just get this whole thing recessed. So, all right. Boy, so cowling sure looks. There's a lot of that white is slurry mix. And then this is slurry, and then this here's a real light white in here. That's the primer, the sandable epoxy primer, and then the top coat, and then the white filler on top of the color again. But this is all the way down to the fiberglass. So it's cleaned up nice. I'm really happy with the way it looks now. This is fine. Everything looks good. So it'll get a good coat of that epoxy primer. I'll reshoot the whole thing in epoxy primer. All these heavy scratches, that primer fills all that right in. So, and I might still hand sand that a little more, just to kind of knock down the paint. The dark blue is all. So, okay, everybody, I think that's going to do her. Get this thing closed up for the night. Again, the weather here has been absolutely phenomenal. So, hopefully I'm not making everybody seasick moving the camera around all the time. But it's looking good. I accomplished what I wanted to. Those are recessed and they actually look like separate little panels, so perfect. Alright, everybody, that's going to do it for this week. I will hopefully have most of this all buttoned up by Sunday, and you'll be able to see how it looks after that. And yeah, I don't know if I'll have it in primer by then or not. I can order the stuff, but would I get it before the weekend? I don't know. It's going to take me a little while to finalize this thing and get her ready for primer. I know there's some epoxy primers you can get locally. I did have some epoxy primer that I've been using on my car. That was the 2K primer hardener, but this stuff is definitely getting old, and I had a little bit of it left, I think. There was a whole gallon can of it. It might be gone now, but last time I used it, after it cures, you shouldn't be able to hit it with thinner and have it start coming off. Even after a few days, it's still sensitive to thinners, but once it cures, it holds up well. So I can get something like that, but this Class Coat paint that I used with a K, K-L-A-S, Class Coat. Actually, let me show you the cans. This stuff. Their primer, Class Coat. Their primer is a white primer and it's sandable, and I tell you what, that stuff sands even better than this microbloom mix. It sands absolutely beautiful. I just love that stuff. Couldn't get enough of it. So I might order a little bit of that and then the Insignia white, because again, just the very, very bottom of this plane cowling is white. Not very much of it, maybe a third at the most. Okay, that's going to do her. I will get this up tonight so you guys can see what it looks like, see what you think, and then I'll see you guys again Sunday, and hopefully I'll have that thing all glued in place and working on the final prep for paint. So, let's see the molds, I mean everything came off nice and clean. You can see where the sticker from the tape was. That's the actual piece from here. I super glued them on. It held it perfect until I pulled it apart and then it popped off. So this here, yeah, this piece, that was just super glued on there and it held up just fine. Alright everyone, that'll do her, and I will see you guys again on Sunday. So as always, appreciate you taking time to watch my videos. Feel free to leave any comments, questions, concerns as always, and don't be afraid to comment. So I will see you guys again on Sunday. So for now, this is Don out.